Let's talk about the draft a little bit. Azariah Thomas goes to the Jets in the 3rd round. He's the 73rd overall pick. He was getting a little bit of buzz, Richie, as potentially being a guy that could go late 1st round, if not early 2nd round, and then seemed to slide to that mid 3rd round pick. He joins Jordan Travis. Derek Nottie is there. Jermaine Johnson is there. There's one more, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but yeah, Pokey Wilson is there. So joins a few Seminoles on that roster. Going mid 3rd round, should AZ Thomas have come back? Like, I'm happy for him. I'm not, I think you got to take, but I think his NIL deal would have been pretty similar. Now, not guaranteed, and obviously injuries could happen, but could he have improved his stock with another really good year? Was it surprising to see him slide? Like, I'm leaning towards he probably should, he probably should have come back based on where he ended up getting drafted.
No, I agree. And I think, NFL GMs, it's the same thing with the college recruiting, right? Coaches love to recruit from a high achieving high school program, right? And the fact that Florida State went 2-10, that was not on AZ at all. He was one of the few bright spots. But if a NFL GM says, "Oh man, this team went 2-10, do I really want this guy, or do I want him that early?" Obviously he had a better week than Shador Sanders did, but at the same time, yeah, I think he probably could have come back and improved his stock, because I do think Florida State's going to have a better year. This is terrible to say. We should make a bowl game. Like, that's horrifying that's our goal right now. But I think if he had come back this year and had another year and progressed at the level he had been progressing at, he probably could have been a 1st rounder in next year's draft. And I think he definitely could make a comparable salary in NIL money to what he's going to make as a 3rd round pick. But, I think he probably should have come back. But at the same time, I don't blame the kid at all. Like, go do that. That you're having life-changing money for not just you, but for your entire family. And that's what's most important to all these players.
Yeah, I got no problem with him going. Now, also, he had a phenomenal year, and he graded out really well. He tested well. So maybe that's just kind of where he is. Maybe he is just kind of a 3rd round guy. And maybe coming back wouldn't have helped him in a massive way, right? Maybe it was just another year of wear and tear on him and playing for a team that's, not great. I'm not trying to diss FSU too much, but maybe it does. I mean, although he went to the Jets, it's not like 6-1 half dozen other. But there's also the side that, like, does he improve his stock that much, or is that about where he'd have been taken next year too, right? What if he doesn't have as good of a year next year, at Florida State, and then he falls even further? So there's two sides to every coin, but I would have leaned that, it felt he certainly didn't fall like Shedeur, and maybe we can talk about that in just a minute. But I thought he could have potentially come back and made a little bit more. But I will say, I didn't think that before. I thought his grade was much higher. I thought he'd go earlier. I thought there was a chance he could sneak into the end of the 1st round. I was hoping the Bucs would go after him with their 2nd pick, but they took a cornerback from Notre Dame, and I have no issues with that. But I thought that he potentially could have made himself a little bit more money. But hindsight being 2020, it's easy for me to say that now. The other drafted FSU player, Josh Farmer, went to the Patriots in the 4th round, 137th overall. I think this is a good fit for Josh. I think the Patriots it's a spot where, 4th round is probably, he's probably not expected to come in and be a starter. So he's got some time to kind of grow and learn. But you've seen some FSU defensive linemen, and, Odell has done a great job with the development of that position. I know the recruiting is something that we have complained about and lamented at times, but, guys go to the league and they play for a long time. I mean, we talked about Derek Nottie. He was playing back then with Dalvin and stuff, like way back, and he's still on an NFL roster. And so I think it's impressive that, Josh goes to the Patriots. Both guys go into that AFC East, but I think that's a good fit for him. And I think it's a franchise that's trying to rebuild, but I think Josh works incredibly hard. And really, like, you look at the pictures of what Josh was when he first got to campus and then, where he is now, just kind of the monster that he is. I'm excited to see what he can do. I like following these guys going forward. I'm not as into the NFL as you are, but I do think that he's one that is really interesting. And I think the Patriots are a good fit for him.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's a bit of a steal to get him that late. He has your prototypical NFL defensive lineman body and his measurables and everything you could want. And if even if they thought they were taking a flyer on him, that is a great pickup for New England, and it'll be interesting to see, how things work out there. And as you said, he's not going to be pressured to perform year one. He can develop it and continue to develop. But I think what he did at Florida State was phenomenal. He was a very good player at Florida State. And I think going to the Patriots, obviously it's a different organization now with Bill Belichick no longer being there. But at the same time, I think, if you're looking at good fits, I think this is a really good fit for Farmar.
Some signings. We'll go through these quickly, but Ryan Fitzgerald signs with the Panthers. I hate when Florida State guys sign in the NFC South.
Yeah.
Personally, I know you're the same way because it's like you want them to do well. Gano kicked there forever. Right? Chris Winkie went there, obviously. Like there's been Benjamin went there, and you're talking about some of your favorite guys going there. Like I hate when Chris Winkie went there, I was just like, God, why is this a thing? Chris Winkie's so underrated. I still love him to death. And anyway, I hated that. But Fitzgerald to the Panthers, I think he has a real shot to make that roster. I love Ryan. I love the kind of the comeback for his career. Obviously, 2 years ago, really struggled, but then last year was
horrible and then was amazing.
Yeah, just I hope that trend only continues up, and I really am pulling for that kid. Some other signings, I think maybe one has a chance to make a roster. DJU signs with the Chargers, Cam Riley with the Panthers, Fintrell Cypress with the Commanders. They need so much secondary help that he's got a long way to go, but that's one that I could see making a roster because their defense is so terrible. Jeremiah Byers signs with the Cardinals, so he's out there with Trey Benson, gets to block for him a little bit in the preseason. Just being very transparent, I'd be surprised if DJ or Cam or Jeremiah made a 53-man roster. I think Fintrell has a chance. He's very athletic. He needs to kind of continue to improve a little bit, but some other signings that happened as well. I don't know if you have any quick thoughts on those. If not, we can talk Shedeur.
Yeah, no, I definitely think Fitzgerald has the best chance of any of them because he was really good the last year. We probably, as bad as Florida State was, we had probably the best kicker punter combo in the entire nation.
Yeah,
which I wholeheartedly believe that. But yeah, Fintrell potentially. I don't think DJ makes the roster. Cam Riley probably not. You're looking at a lot of practice squad guys that you just mentioned.
So, do you have a take on the Shedeur thing? Obviously, he was getting hype as maybe a top 5 pick, and then it sounded like, okay, top 10, and then it was like, he might slide out of that, but then, probably still first round, go to the Steelers or something, and he slides all the way down to, was it the 5th round? Is that where he ended up?
5th round for Cleveland.
Yeah, which Cleveland, it's great for Cleveland because they ended up getting a really good pick early, and not having to waste it on Shedeur when nobody else took him. But thoughts on the Shedeur stuff?
Yeah, apparently, there was one quote from an assistant coach who said just his interviews were horrible. His body language was terrible. None of it looked good when according to, again, this is one assistant coach, but at the same time, that people clearly thought that as well. And I just don't think he's that good of a quarterback as far as an NFL prospect. Yeah, he was good in college, but at the same time, you think of, I forget the guy's name, but the quarterback from Hawaii that I think Brennan. Yeah, Colt Brennan. Yeah, he was phenomenal in college. He probably should have won a Heisman, but he was never going to be a good NFL quarterback. And I think that's probably what these coaches and GMs think. And I just want to read you this tweet that I think is hilarious. From March 13th, 2018. It is from Coach Prime. I love what the Browns have done this offseason, but if I'm a young QB, there's ain't no way I'm going to Cleveland. I would pull a Eli Manning if possible. And I just thought that was hilarious to see that resurface.
Yeah, the best old takes exposed ever. Yeah, I mean, I agree. On the Shador stuff, like I, I think ultimately, people want to make it about race or conspiracy or they hate Prime or whatever. Like guys that like got caught smoking bongs on camera go in the first round. I mean, like Johnny Manziel went in the first round. Baker Mayfield was arrested and went in the first round. And, Jameis had all his off the field stuff that people brought up and he went number one overall. Like if you're good, teams don't care
If
because
your talent outweighs your problems,
correct.
they do not care.
And I don't think Shador has any problems. I'll say
No,
that. Like
he
I think
doesn't.
he's
No.
actually a really good kid
Yeah.
and he's very cocky, but I don't care about that at all. Michael Jordan's the most cocky person that
I
ever
want my
lived.
quarterback to be cocky.
Yes, like I love Tiger Woods, and he's out here banging Perkins waitresses. Like you're allowed to be cocky, right? Like that, I have no problem with that at all. Jameis had a picture with crab legs the night of the draft. Like people, these guys do not care about he's cocky. So what? I don't care about any of that. I don't think he's a bad person. I think the media circus that follows anything Coach Prime, it's similar to, and they're so different of people, right? But it's similar to Tebow. Like when the Broncos finally cut Tebow, no franchise wanted Tebow because they didn't want that Tebow mania for their backup, right? Like you don't want to hear about a backup. Like, have you ever heard any Kyle Trask news? Like, have you ever, right? Like it barely got mentioned when he got married, right? Like, and he's like that's all you want in a backup. You just want a guy that's going to sit there and not bring the wrong kind of attention to your program, to your franchise, whatever. And I don't think that teams, one, valued him as a starter. I think if you get drafted in the fifth round, it's pretty clear that you are not a starter caliber in the NFL. Now, maybe he develops into that. I have no clue. But I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think he brings that
No.
inappropriate type baggage. I just don't think teams want that in a backup. I don't think they want a sideshow in a backup. And I'm not saying it's him causing it, but it follows, and that's something I think people look at. I also think it was an incredibly bad decision to. I think he only interviewed with like the top 5 teams, and so like you're pigeonholing yourself, man. Like that's a mistake. Like you gotta, I understand being brash, I understand being cocky, but you got to take interviews with other teams. Jameis didn't just interview with one team, even though everybody knew the Bucs were going to take him. Like he interviewed with other teams. Cam Ward interviewed with other teams. I also think this QB class is absolutely awful. Like I don't think there's a good quarterback. Like it would shock me, and Cam's probably the most likely to. It would shock me if any quarterback from this class is starting in 5 years in the NFL, right? Like Cam's like the only one that I could see potentially doing it, but even that would surprise me a little bit. Like I'm not super sold on him as like a long-term NFL guy. I think he's clearly the best, and every NFL franchise would agree with that. Like he was going number one no matter what. But I'm not sold on this class. And so when it's a weak class and you've got these other issues and other things going on too, it becomes tough. Anything else surprise you? Okay, this is the only one. Shout out to our Jacksonville fans. Anybody that's watching from Jacksonville or listening from there, our Jacksonville Seminole fans finally get to cheer for Travis Hunter. Yeah. I thought so. They gave up a lot for sure. That was the best pick of the draft. I thought that was Travis Hunter in Jacksonville is going to be fun. Like I know people are still salty and bitter about that, but actually I think the Giants had a really good pick too, getting Abdul Carter. I think he might be the best player in the draft. If not, it's Hunter. But shout out to the Jacksonville fans that get to cheer for something that Richie and I never got to cheer for.
No, and I'm really happy for Travis Hunter, and I think that just affirms the point that Shedeur just wasn't that good, because Travis Hunter also played at Colorado, and he went number 2 overall, and I think that Williams, because they didn't care about where he was or what happened. And, just going back to, the Cam Ward point, looking at the last 10 years, the number 1 pick, Jameis Winston, Jared Goff, Myles Garrett, Baker, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Trevor Walker, Bryce Young, and Caleb Williams, and then Cam Ward. So, this is going to sound like a hater, but I think Cam Ward is probably the worst number 1 overall And it goes to your point of the fact that, you know, this is a terrible quarterback class.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he is. Like, I'm not trying. I've seen the Miami fans just be crying on Twitter all weekend about how they didn't give him enough attention. It was it was so known that he was going to be the number one pick. Like, it wasn't like a Jameis Mariota thing where you had two quarterbacks at the top and you were trying to see who was going to go. And we all thought Jameis would be. He was a big favorite to go number one. But they were over it, right? Like, there were other storylines, but it's been funny to watch. It's also because he, I don't know, give him 3 or 4 years and he's probably out of it. So out of a starting job. So I think the quarterback class just sucked, and he just happened to be the best of all of them. And Tennessee needed a quarterback. If Jacksonville would have picked first, they probably would have stayed in first and taken Hunter. Like, I truly believe that. Like, I don't think, or if the Giants, I think that was, you got a quarterback needy team. Maybe somebody would have traded up, maybe not, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I think Travis Hunter was by far the best prospect in the draft.
Yeah, him or Carter. I think Abdul Carter, like an edge rusher, like I think he could end up having the best NFL career. We'll see. I think he's a little bit more ready, but it's certainly one of those two. Right now, as we sit here on April 27th, I gotta look down and check. What's your over under for how many guys FSU has drafted next year?
Oh man, I'd have to go through the roster, but I'd say 5.5. What do you think?
Ooh, 5.5. All right. So I think Jackson has a great chance. I think you could see a cornerback drafted, maybe the one we just picked up. So that's 2. Safety, one of those guys would have to make a jump to make it. James Williams could get drafted, so maybe there's 3. Safety, I'm not confident in. Tight end, no. Running back, no. Castellanos maybe late. I mean, I don't know, man. Freaking Tyler Shuck got drafted from Louisville, so maybe Castellanos late if he has a really good year. I mean, Jalen Milroe got drafted, so I guess Castellanos could. So there's 4-ish, 5. Yeah, I mean, like 5 would to me feel like pushing it. No, I'd be surprised if any offensive linemen were. Maybe you could get one of those tackles drafted if they kind of ball out.
Do you say 4.5?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. That's fair.
Somebody remember that and call us on it when it's either going to. So what that means, since Richie and I are both around 4 or 5, it's going to be 8 or 2. Like, that's what's going to happen. Either a bunch of guys ball out or Richie and I, we're way off one way or the other, because I certainly had more than 2. Yeah, I don't want to even talk about this, but like last year I was thinking DJU gets drafted. I was thinking, we'd have a lot more drafted than we're. So, I thought Mastro and Fitz would have a chance, but obviously special team, you can just sign them and you're good. All right, if you're watching this live or on replay, do us a favor and hit the subscribe button. We'll close with one more segment here in a second. I did